The 1970s were packed with bold ideas, radical tractors, futuristic designs, and engineering leaps that should have changed farming forever. These machines were powerful, innovative, and years ahead of the competition, yet they failed spectacularly. Some were too complex, some were too expensive, and some were simply misunderstood by farmers who weren't ready for the future. Get ready, because these are the 10 revolutionary 1970s tractors that flopped harder than anyone expected. Number 1. Allis-Chalmers 440. The Allis-Chalmers 440 was meant to dominate the growing 4WD tractor market of the early 1990s. Built in partnership with Steiger, the 440 featured a big, burly 175 horsepower Cummins engine, a heavy-duty frame, and impressive pulling power. On paper, the tractor should have been a bestseller. It was designed to handle massive implements, long hours, and tough soil conditions. It delivered torque that made other tractors of the era look weak, and the cab was comfortable enough to support full-day field operations. But the tractor's biggest strength, its raw power, was also its downfall. Most farmers in the early 70s simply didn't need a machine that big. Many weren't farming on the scale that required a giant 4WD tractor. Fuel prices were also rising, making large tractors unattractive to all but the largest operations. And while the 440 was built by Steiger, Allis-Chalmers lacked the dealer network and parts support for a tractor of this size. Farmers were cautious. They couldn't trust that long-term parts availability would be reliable. Maintenance became another issue. The 440 was rugged, but not easy to repair. Its components were overbuilt, heavy, and required specialized skills to service. For many farmers used to fixing their own tractors with basic tools, the 440 felt intimidating. Despite being ahead of its time, the Allis-Chalmers 440 flopped because the market wasn't ready. Today, it's remembered as a rare but powerful relic from an era when tractor innovation outpaced demand. Number 2. International Harvester 4366. The International Harvester 4366 was introduced with big expectations. IH wanted to prove it could compete in the rising high horsepower 4WD tractor category. The 4366 delivered close to 200 horsepower, used a rugged four-wheel drive setup, and featured a modern cab designed for long working hours. In theory, it was a dream machine for large acreage operations, but the execution missed the mark. The 4366 suffered from a severely underbuilt driveline that couldn't handle the power it produced. The transmission and axles were simply not designed for the stress of constant heavy pulling, causing catastrophic failures far more often than they should have. Farmers were spending more time repairing the tractor than using it. The engine was strong, but the rest of the tractor couldn't keep up. IH tried to fix the reliability issues in later runs, but the damage to its reputation was already done. Farmers who had early failures lost trust immediately, and word spread fast at local dealerships and auction barns. Don't buy a 4366 unless you like repairing things. The timing of the tractor's release made things worse. The economic turbulence of the 1970s, rising interest rates, volatile crop prices, and high inflation made farmers cautious about big financial risks. Buying a tractor known for breaking down was out of the question. The IH-4366 could have been a great machine with better engineering. Instead, it became a symbol of missed opportunity and remains one of the biggest what-if tractors of the 19th. Number 3. Ford 9700. Ford entered the 1970s with ambition. They wanted to modernize their tractor lineup and compete directly with John Deere and International Harvester. The Ford 9700 was their attempt to bring innovation, power, and comfort into one package. With 135-plus horsepower, a turbocharged 6-cylinder diesel engine, and Ford's new sound-damped cab system, the 9700 seemed ready to redefine mid to high horsepower tractors. Yet the machine struggled from the beginning. One of the biggest problems was reliability, particularly the engine and transmission components. Ford tried pushing its engine to higher horsepower levels than the design could comfortably sustain. The result was overheating issues, head gasket failures, and premature wear. The dual-power transmission also developed a reputation for slipping and failing under heavy draft loads. Farmers were frustrated. They expected reliability above everything else, and while the 9700 was comfortable and advanced, it simply wasn't dependable enough. Ford mechanics were frequently called out to farms to fix oil leaks, transmission failures, or injection system issues. The tractor earned the unfortunate nickname, the 90% tractor, good 90% of the time, broken the other 10%. While Ford eventually improved its designs, the 9700 never gained the widespread trust that brands like Deere and IH enjoyed. It was revolutionary, yes, but a revolution that farmers didn't want to babysit. Number 4. Massey Ferguson 1800. The Massey Ferguson 1800 was a massive gamble, built in partnership with Big Bud's manufacturing philosophy. This giant 4WD tractor featured a colossal frame and a monstrous 320 horsepower Caterpillar engine. In an era when most farmers were still using 100 to 150 horsepower tractors, MF dropped a titan into the field. The 1800 was strong, capable, and shockingly powerful. But it was also far too much for the market to absorb. Farmers simply weren't ready for a machine of this size. Very few farms needed 300-plus horsepower in the 1970s. The tractor was enormous, difficult to transport, difficult to store, and difficult to service. Its sheer size made everything from maintenance to repairs to fuel costs overwhelming. Dealer support was another issue. MF's network was strong for smaller tractors, but not for massive 4WD machines. Parts were expensive and often back-ordered. Many mechanics didn't have the tools or experience to work on such a large tractor. The fuel crisis of the 1970s also hit the 1800 hard. A tractor that consumed fuel at staggering rates wasn't appealing during a period of skyrocketing fuel prices. As impressive as the MF 1800 was, it was simply too early. Today, farmers routinely use 300-600 horsepower machines, but in the 1970s, the MF 1800 was a monster born in the wrong era. Number 5. John Deere 8430. The John Deere 8430 was one of Deere's early attempts at building a competitive 4WD high-horsepower tractor. Deere fans loved the brand's reliability and engineering, and the 8430 seemed like it would continue that tradition. It delivered 175 horsepower, had a strong 4WD system, and boasted Deere's signature operator comfort and visibility. Unfortunately, the 8430 became infamous for engine failures. Deere used the 531 cubic inch engine, a powerful engine, but not designed for the constant heavy pulling required by 4WD tractors. Cooling issues plagued the machine. Under heavy loads, the engine ran hot, causing cracked heads, blown gaskets, and in some cases complete engine meltdown. The transmission wasn't well suited for the stress either. Constant heavy draft loads caused premature wear on internal components, leading to costly teardown repairs. Farmers who bought the 8430 expecting Deere reliability were disappointed. Word spread quickly, and sales dropped. Deere ultimately resolved many of these issues in later models, but the 8430 never escaped the stigma. It was a tractor that pushed Deere into the 4WD world, but not one the market wanted to maintain. Number 6. Case 1470 Traction King. The Case 1470 Traction King was one of the most unique tractors of the 1970s. It featured a center pivot articulation design that allowed tight turning and improved traction. The tractor was intended to give farmers the benefits of a 4WD machine without the complexity of a massive articulated frame. It was innovative, bold, and full of potential, but the design created as many problems as it solved. The articulation joint was a high-wear component that required constant maintenance. If it wasn't greased properly, and often, the entire joint could wear out prematurely. The tractor's front and rear wheels didn't always track perfectly, leading to uneven tire wear and traction issues. The engine was strong, but the cooling system was inadequate for long days pulling heavy implements. Overheating was a frequent problem, especially in hot climates. But the biggest issue was operator discomfort. The pivoting design caused a strange driving sensation that made some operators feel like the tractor was constantly fighting itself. Visibility wasn't great, the cab was loud, and the ride was stiff. Case had a brilliant idea, but the execution wasn't farmer-friendly. The 1470 became known as the love-it-or-hate-it tractor of the decade. Unfortunately, most farmers ended up in the second category. Number 7. Deutz D130-06. Deutz was famous for its air-cooled engines, which were simple, efficient, and required fewer parts than water-cooled systems. The Deutz D136 brought this engineering into a powerful 130-horsepower tractor. Lightweight, fuel-efficient, and mechanically simple, the D136 had all the makings of a revolutionary machine. But in practice, the tractor faced serious challenges. Air-cooled engines struggled in slow, heavy pulling conditions where airflow was limited. The tractor also had difficulty maintaining consistent temperatures during long days with heavy implements. In hot climates, overheating became a common issue. Another problem was the noise. Air-cooled engines are significantly louder than liquid-cooled ones, and the D136 quickly developed a reputation for being one of the loudest tractors of its era. Operators complained about fatigue after long days in the seat. Parts availability in North America was also limited. Deutz's dealer network wasn't as expansive as Deere, IH, or Case, making repairs slow and expensive. Despite its innovative engineering, the Deutz D130-06 flopped because it simply didn't perform well under real-world farming conditions. Number 8. Oliver 2255. The Oliver 2255 was famous for one thing: its massive 315-horsepower Caterpillar V8 diesel engine. It was a brute force machine in a pre-brute force era. Farmers who used it loved its power, torque, and unstoppable pulling ability. But the tractor had major flaws. The Cat V8 was powerful but also heavy. The added weight put enormous strain on the drivetrain, causing gear failures and worn-out planetary components. The engine consumed fuel rapidly, making it one of the thirstiest tractors ever built. Cooling also became a serious issue. The V8 produced significantly more heat than the cooling system could effectively handle under long, heavy loads. Over time, overheating caused warped heads, cracked manifolds, and expensive repairs. Oliver also struggled financially during this period. Parts were expensive, dealer support was waning, and farmers didn't want to risk buying a tractor from a company on the decline. The Oliver 2255 was revolutionary in horsepower, but its maintenance needs made it impractical for the average farmer. Number 9. Minneapolis Moline A4T1600. The Minneapolis Moline A4T1600 was an early attempt at creating a high-horsepower row crop tractor with articulated steering. This concept would eventually become standard in modern agriculture, but in the 1970s it felt bizarre. The A4T1600 was powerful, versatile, and offered impressive traction, but its articulated steering was rough and unpredictable. The tractor felt unstable at higher speeds, and operators complained about jerky steering. The articulation joint was prone to wear, and the hydraulics required constant attention. While innovative, the A4T1600 simply wasn't refined enough to become mainstream. Farmers found it too strange, too fragile, and too difficult to maintain. It was a glimpse into the future, but one that needed another decade of engineering before farmers would embrace it. Number 10. White 4155. The White 415 was one of the most unusual tractors ever built. It featured a cab mounted at the very front of the tractor, giving the operator an incredible view of the field. It was designed for comfort and visibility, and it offered impressive maneuverability thanks to its articulated chassis. But the tractor had two fatal flaws: stability and reliability. The front cab design made the tractor feel front-heavy. On uneven terrain, operators reported the machine becoming unbalanced or difficult to control. The articulation system was fragile, and the tractor frequently developed driveline vibration issues. The 450 was innovative but too unconventional. Farmers weren't comfortable with the strange design, and many considered it unsafe. The tractor sold poorly and quickly disappeared. These tractors proved that even the smartest engineering can crash when timing, cost, and real-world farming don't line up. They should have been legends, yet most were forgotten before their brilliance was ever appreciated. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the boldest failures of the 70s, hit like, subscribe, and tell me which tractor deserved a comeback. Thanks for watching, because the next video uncovers even more machines that were too advanced and too early for their own good.